Okay, so today we are digging into a really powerful piece that looks at the long-running battle between fascism and democracy. And it's all framed by the incredible and often overlooked story of a true American hero. Let's get right into it. Our story kicks off on what was supposed to be a peaceful Sunday morning. It's December 7th, 1941, at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and we're aboard the battleship USS West Virginia. In the middle of this absolute chaos, a messman named Doris Miller, a black sailor whose job was to serve officers and who was explicitly barred from any combat training, springs into action. He'd literally just been collecting laundry when the first torpedo slams into the ship. He helps get his mortally wounded captain to safety, and then he does something incredible. He finds an unmanned anti-aircraft gun, a weapon he has no idea how to use, and just starts firing at the enemy planes. He keeps firing until he's completely out of ammo, and even then, he spends his last moments on the ship helping pull injured sailors to safety before he has to abandon the sinking vessel. Now, the attack on Pearl Harbor, it did more than just damage a fleet. It plunged the United States headfirst into a global war against a brand new and really aggressive political idea that was sweeping across Europe. Just 4 days after the attack, leaders like Italy's Mussolini and Germany's Hitler officially declare war on the U.S. And listen to that confidence. We shall win. They were absolutely convinced that their system, fascism, was superior. They believed that democracies, which they saw as weak and corrupted by diversity, were just destined to collapse. So what exactly is this ideology they were pushing? Well, at its very core, fascism is a total rejection of the democratic idea of equality. The whole thing is built on the belief that society is, and should be, a rigid hierarchy, that a select few are simply born to rule over everyone else. Mussolini didn't just dream this up overnight. His journey started when he was a young socialist, getting really frustrated that he couldn't rally people. But the real aha moment for him was seeing the armies of World War I. He saw that ruthless, top-down efficiency and thought, that's it. That's how society should be run, like a military machine with one all-powerful leader calling all the shots. So America's response was to go to war to defend democracy. And the contrast between the two systems, especially when you look at who actually did the fighting, couldn't have been more stark. This right here, this slide boils the entire global conflict down to one fundamental question. Are some people born to rule, or are all people created equal? Fascism's answer is clear, hierarchy. Democracy's answer is just as clear, equality. And this chart, this shows democracy's answer in action. Just look at these numbers. Out of 16 million Americans who served, you had over 1.2 million Black Americans, more than 500,000 Jewish Americans, 500,000 Latino Americans. It was this huge, diverse coalition of people fighting for that principle of equality, even if they weren't always getting it back home. And here's an amazing fact from that time. Indigenous Americans served at a higher percentage than any other group in the country. We're talking more than a third of all able-bodied men between 18 and 50 enlisted. And among them, of course, were the legendary code talkers. Their codes, based on their native languages, were so complex, the enemy never, ever broke them. President Franklin D. Roosevelt really hammered this point home. He kept calling out fascism's big claim about being so efficient. You know the old saying about Mussolini making the trains run on time? Well, FDR pointed out that for all their talk, these regimes couldn't even provide the basics for their own people. In fact, their citizens were often desperately seeking food and shelter from the very democratic soldiers they'd been told to hate. So, World War II ends, the Allies win, and you'd think that would be the end of that ideological struggle. But historian Heather Cox Richardson argues that the core conflict, hierarchy versus equality, it didn't just vanish, it just changed shape and has continued to ripple through American politics ever since. According to Richardson, you see this tension flare up again in the years after the war. As the civil rights movement and the women's liberation movement started making real gains, a counter-argument started to grow. It was this idea that giving more equality to marginalized groups would somehow take away the liberty of people who already held power. Heather Cox Richardson's analysis draws a direct line from that historical tension to the Trump administration. She points to actions like pardoning political loyalists and using government agencies against opponents as modern examples of leaders prioritizing a hierarchical system, one based on personal loyalty over the democratic principle that the law applies equally to everyone. And all of this brings us right back to where we started, with the story of Doris Miller, because his life and his death really hold a powerful lesson about what it means to defend democracy, even a democracy that's far from perfect. After his incredible bravery at Pearl Harbor, Doris Miller was finally recognized, and his reward? A promotion to cook third class. The Navy then sent him on a publicity tour, using his heroic story to inspire the very same country that was still limiting his own opportunities. But his time as a celebrity didn't last long. He soon went back to active duty in the Pacific, this time serving on a new escort carrier called the USS Liscum Bay. On November 24, 1943, a single Japanese torpedo hit the ship. It sank in a matter of minutes. Doris Miller, along with 2/3 of his crewmates, was killed in action. Just think about that. He fought and died for an ideal of equality that his own country had not yet granted him. But in that moment of crisis, the democratic system, as flawed as it was, gave him the room to prove that heroism has absolutely nothing to do with rank or race. And that leaves us with this final, really powerful thought from the source. The promise of democracy isn't just that it produces heroes like Doris Miller. It's that by giving everyone the space to act, it has the potential to make any of us a hero when it matters most. And the question it leaves us with is, will we protect that system?